Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the On Hit podcast. Joining us for our third episode today. We're going to be talking a little bit of Guardian, a little bit of Pack Mastery Guardian updates, as well as some cool stuff ahead in the future. But we'll kick it in the past and present a little bit. And Robert, why don't you tell me a little bit about your week in Fab, buddy?
Sure. My week in Fab was pretty good. We played in an armory on Wednesday, as we usually do. I did okay. I was on Vincent. I know you were on Acilio. I think the winner, who ended up taking that? Was it Jacob?
It was a draw
Oh, that's
between
right. They
Ben and
went to
Jacob.
time. Yeah.
Yep. They had a very grindy match. It was a tuned up Marlin deck against a pretty much out of the box Armory Ira deck, which I think this says a lot about the Armory decks.
Yeah, that Ira deck really was taking names, and I mean, I lost to it. Did you end up playing it?
I did play it. I lost a very close game to it. Everything was really close. Like it didn't blow
Sure.
anybody out of the water. It just is a very well constructed deck. Like I do think they did a really good job on that one. It's very powerful out of the box.
Yeah, and the guy playing it, he's a pretty good ninja player too, so props to him for making that work when we were all playing tuned up stuff. It was a good night for him. Yeah, other than that, I've been
Yeah.
working on that Valda list, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Um, how was your week in Fab besides the Armory?
Um, it was fine. It was same thing. Didn't do as well with the Cilio as I would have liked, but I went to play my new Victor list and had forgotten like a deck box that had some of my sideboard tech in it, so I just opted to play a Cilio instead, and I kind of got punished for it, which is funny. But other than that, I mean, we've had some big Fab events. I know the Calling Auckland was a thing that you and I wanted to talk about because the finals matchup of Kano versus Dash IO was kind of a crazy matchup. Decks that you and I both play and have a lot of love of, which was really cool to see. It's nice to see like decks that you really enjoy that you don't get a lot of love, or they typically don't get a lot of love, and see them do really well. It's always fun.
Yeah, I agree. We both play Kano currently, and I still play Dash. You played Dash back in the day, so two lists that are both near and dear to our hearts. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Cool to see stuff that's not always at the top coming in and making people have a bad time. So I definitely like that. Also, I want to do a quick shout out to Grandmaster Games. That's the site we have pulled up here. That is the local store we play at every Wednesday night. So anybody in the Indianapolis area, every Wednesday at 7 we have an armory. So come on out. Also, Matt, I know you cracked quite a bit of Pack Mastery Guardian, helping me fill out my Valda list, and you pulled something that's pretty spicy. Do you want to talk about that at all, or is that a secret?
No, it doesn't have to be a secret. I pulled the Yarvel. I pulled that Marvel Jarl, and you were on the phone with me. You got to hear it literally steal the breath from my lungs when I pulled it. It was a gorgeous card to pull.
Yeah, that's
Took
amazing.
about 11 boxes to get to it, but we finally got there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people cracking even more than that, and they'll never see it. So, got pretty lucky with that one.
That's true.
Which again,
That's
perfect
very
shout
true.
out to Meg Games out in Colorado. You want to call out your homies real quick?
Yeah, if you guys are out in the Greenwood Village area in Colorado, if this makes its way all the way out there, check out Meg Games. The owner Kyle and the owner Josh, they're great guys. Kyle has supported Flesh and Blood since all the way back in Monarch. Runs ProQuest and stuff out of there. Has a huge armory every week. I think it's Fridays that they run their armories. Huge community, great community. Some really great Fab players have been there and have come through there. So if you're in that area, check them out as well as for anything else. They're just great guys there. So
Yeah, sometime you'll have to take me out there, dude. We'll take a little week off and go out there, and you can show me around the town and let me see where you got your start at with all that stuff. So that'd be pretty
yeah,
cool.
oh yeah, I'm sure they'd love that as well, man. I've been missing seeing those guys, so it'll be a good time.
Nice. Well, I think we can get into
Yeah,
kind of the meat and potatoes of this video, which will be, you know, talking about some of the new updates from Pack Mastery Guardian, some of the heroes they've helped out, what our plans are for the future. And I think first we're going to have you kick it off with some of the updates to your Victor list. Why don't you walk us through some of those?
yeah. So I used to play like a really aggressive sideboarding version of this deck. I our meta is so all over the place. You know that as well as I do that you'll find, I mean, out of the 30 plus legal heroes that we have, I mean, you'll see 25 of them at any given time at the table. Everybody plays everything. Everybody enjoys multiple classes. So it really had to be flexible. I kind of gave up on being super flexible with it, and I just kind of hardlined it towards being, um, more mid-range and aggro. Um, the the main changes that I made to it are I guess just the new cards that I wanted to try. So the two that made it into the main board, one of them is Peck Perfect. I want to bring this one up first just because it's the one I'm probably the least confident in. Um, my thought process behind this was it's still a 5 for 9, so with not necessarily an on hit, um, but it presents the person who doesn't want to block with just like, okay, I'll take 9. It is what it is. And sometimes this comes out for those matchups where you're really trying to grind. But there's a lot of times where that's somebody's whole strategy is just to cover up whatever they can, and the ability to just kind of chew through their deck with clashes, especially in a deck where I have this deck as min-maxed as I can. Any deck like this, like KO, like Rhinar, any deck that has deck building requirements, Mechanologist. I try to stay as strict into as few whiffs as possible. Um, so it's another 9 power attack to put in here. That probably could be red disable if I end up not liking this card, but for now it's been okay. The tests it's been okay. It's really watched me chew through a lot of like really important pieces that people have been setting up. Um, so we'll see. Like I said, it's the one that I'm least impressed with so far. It is nice to set it up with like a seismic surge and like a pummel, um, just to kind of force someone to try start pulling like D-reacts and stuff, even if they were trying to avoid, the clash triggers. Not the worst thing in the world to have the top of your deck blown up, but not fun. Um, yeah, so we'll see how that one goes.
Sure. It reminds
The
me of the widespread card that targets the top deck, which is widespread ruin. It is also the cheapest of those cards, and they kind of tell you their value by how much they cost. That's the one that costs 2. The other ones cost 3 and 4. So being a slightly less strong effect, it's just not super interactive, right? Like it doesn't affect right now. For most decks, obviously, some decks, like if you can hit somebody who's been trying to stack the top or a Kano who just opted a bunch, you can really throw a wrench in their plans. But I think this card, in conjunction with some of the other cards, there's a build out there where you're probably doing hyper fatigue. I don't know that the meta right now will really help you with that. Although, being that Dash IO won that calling, um, burning the top of their decks down might be a totally valid strategy as like a counter meta pick.
Yeah, it's not completely out of the question, right? I've jaunted about with like maybe a Miller's Grindstone and Leave a Dent type of build where you are being like an aggressive fatigue deck. What I do really like about this card is when you get closer to the end of the game and the decks are getting thinner and thinner and blocking becomes more and more apparent, then you kind of do start having like this late game, large attack that is kind of forcing them to chew through a lot more of their deck than they would like to. So, like you said earlier, with if somebody's trying to pitch stack, or they're trying to assemble, something in particular, this just says card. So if they throw equipment at it, if they throw um, anything, it's going to cause that clash trigger. So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, the one that I'm the least excited about, but the one that still I think deserves a little bit of a test. So, and speaking of test, another card that did not make its way into the main board but into the sideboard is this Test of Iron Grip. Um, they just recently released a dev talk about this, in which they were talking about like the process behind designing this card, the process behind this effect in general. Um, Even in a deck where you're rerolling clashes, the risk reward ratio is still pretty rough. But I do love this into go wide matchups where you can really kind of steal the tempo of somebody's turn. I mean, hand disruption is incredible, and when it's on their turn, I mean, oh my God.
For sure, that's my favorite kind of disruption or control is messing with their hand. That's what drew me to this card in Valda, but I think we both agree that I'm running too many non-attack actions to really utilize this card. It honestly feels like even if you're going to run 15 non-attack reactions or non-attack actions rather, that's probably too many for this card because the downside again is It's not they make a gold, it's you lose a card.
Yeah. Yeah, and I compared to test of strength, I mean test of strength is great, and if you give, there's certain decks that you don't want to give gold to, but if you do end up giving a gold to, let's say, a KO player, it's not the end of the world. Sucks for sure, but it is what it is. What are they going to do with it? They're dumb. Your KO player doesn't know how to play with a gold.
Right.
Making clear fun of us, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know that we both play KO.
Yes.
Uh, um, but yeah, so it's just one of those like I want to try this card. Um, it's Victor. I mean, if you're gonna clash with anybody, it's him. So we'll see how it goes. Then another new card that I added. So there's only one other new card I added, and I added headbutts. Um, Headbutt is yep right there. Yeah, yep. Yeah. Headbutt's another good one. There are a lot of headpieces that we want to target in this game. Um, I think being able to, honestly, I think being able to target things like ragamuffins to kind of shut down wizard combos. I think being able to hit Dash IO's equipment usually all has like Temper 1 and then it buffs itself, correct?
Um, yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah, this is great for something like that. It's great for Mask of Momentum. Now, what sucks is, yes, Mask of Momentum is a Blade Break 2, but putting this card in here did make me kind of make a small min-max decision, and I ended up running blue Buckling Blows to try to help set it up a little bit better. I don't currently run Buckles. Um, it's a card that I thought about running. Um, I do. I think if that's an effect that I want, I'll probably just run Mangles over Buckle, just again for the min max of having something with power versus having just a blue non attack in the deck.
100%.
Um, so
Now,
I'm interested to see how this works. Like I said, it's a little more aggressive, but
well, something I wonder does, let me see, does Headbutt work on equipment that doesn't have a 0 in the defensive box?
I don't believe so. If
Okay.
this is reading the way that I think that it reads, I don't think so. Um, I think it has to have a defensive value.
Perfect. Just making sure we were on a morally consistent plane of existence, and that's an inside joke, but we don't have to get into that right now. I like this card a lot too. I like that in Valda, and it's not in the list currently, but that's just because I don't have it, and I'm trying to build a true list that I'm going to put together. But the fact that this could have dominate and not be blocked by chest, arms, or legs, that alone is pretty powerful.
Right. And the being able to just rip someone's head off of their face is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, especially in a meta that has Face Purgatory, Scowling Flesh Bag.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on
Yeah,
too.
which
With,
again and
well, I think running Buckling Blow obviously is the right move over Buckles because again you're clashing. If you weren't clashing, then Buckles a little more cost effective. But here we are.
right. And again, just being able to, some people don't necessarily care about the -1. Your average ninja player is not going to care about you putting a -1 on their headpiece, like from Buckling Blow. That is until they see Headbutt come out and they read the crush effect and they go, oh, fuck.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Or just a double headbutt.
So I think it's a nice little surprise. Yeah. Yeah. There's three of them in there. You know what I mean? So
Right.
multiple headbutts are great. It's also a 6 power blue. So it's a higher chance of pulling it off of a gold when I win a clash. So it's all around it. I think it just squeezes nicely into the deck. So it's got a little bit of evasion. It can pump itself. It's great. It's a great card.
Do you think these changes will make Victor better into decks that he was already good into, or do you think it will help him kind of tackle decks that he maybe isn't as good into?
Um, I think both, and truly just in the sense of I think that these changes just kind of smooth him out. They add some better higher power cards to add in. They add some better clash abilities. They give you more things to do with your gold other than just sit on them and save them for, the Golden Sun. Obviously, the gold is used for rerolling clashes, but there are just some clashes that you kind of just don't care about. So adding more clashes into the deck, adding better cards to get from them. I hope so. I hope to kind of have a little more honed list and smooth it out. Um, but um, you mentioned Valda a handful of times, and this is actually a thing that I do want to talk to you about on air. You were, and we've talked about this multiple times off of this podcast as well, but you were the intended audience of Pack Mastery Guardian. You were a Guardian or a player who thought about Guardian, was interested in Guardian, but had never jumped into Guardian, and you found a nice, easy product to level up your collection and ultimately find a new hero that you sound like you've been having a lot of fun building and playing and testing. So please, Robert, I'd love to hear about your Volta list and your Guardian journey as a whole.
Sure. So this has been kind of my pet project the last week or two. Putting together a Valda list, and you'll notice that I titled it Rune Guardian. As I started playing this, I noticed that Valda has a ton of similarity to my favorite hero that's CC legal, and that's Vincent, the Iron Maiden, who's a Shadow Runeblade. Um, there's a surprising amount of similarities, and it could be because I'm a little biased in the ways of Vincent, but I've been having a blast playing this thing, testing this thing. I got some nice pieces coming in the mail to finish it out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I remember looking at other Guardian players, especially you with Victor and Ben Walden whenever he would play Bravo, and being just kind of jealous of the crush effects and these giant attacks that you got to pay quite a bit into. So it always seemed like there's definitely a cost reward analysis. But I think the cards that they gave her in this set, I don't know if she's better in the young form now, but this old form, like I said, I've been having a blast with. So I'll give you a run through some of the cards and a little quick thought on why. Here's Valda. So whenever an opponent draws one or more cards during an action phase, create that many Seismic Surge tokens. That is awesome. At the start of your turn, if you control 3 or more Seismic Surge tokens, cards you own with Crush get Dominate this turn. The thing that I've found is, much in how I build Vincent, I don't want to rely on my opponent drawing cards to make my Seismic Surges, so the goal is going to be to make at least 3 Seismic Surges every turn on my own, to take advantage of that Dominate effect. And this deck's pretty good at doing that. So, Crater Fist, I own a Crater Fist, that's why I'm running it. This could easily be swapped out with Goliath Gauntlet if I don't need the temper value, so maybe into like Wizard, but 3 life or 2 life and a pump to my crush effects, I'm fine. I believe every attack in this list, except maybe Thunderquake, has crush, so that's pretty cool. And again, kind of like what you were talking with Victor, when I kind of focus on an idea, I tend to really go all in and try to min-max that one specific thing and make that effect as consistent as possible. So making Seismic Surges is the name of the game. Craterhoof, a common that I really like. I love these new commons they're making that have Battle Worn 1 and then some kind of destructive effect. This has that. And I do Arsenal all the time in this list, so this is a natural fit, cheaply obtained. Big fan of this card. Crown of Providence, classic. This is, because I'm Arsenal all the time, just an extra card in hand for pitch, or Arsenal protection if I need to keep that card. 2 Blade Break, just a good fridge all in all. Tech Plating, this is one of the stars of the show. I don't think this list can function properly without Tech Plating. And the Rainbow Foil is only about $45, so not bad for a legendary piece of equipment. This pay 1, make a Seismic Surge aura. There's going to be probably most turns, this is the first thing you do. You pitch 1 into this, and then use your floating resources and whatever else you can after that. But this is integral. Battle Worn 2, from the early days, this is a rock star. From the not so early days, this new card, Testament of Valahai. Oh my goodness. Never playing Guardian. I never really play with shields. I do play with Bloodied Oval and Vincent a little bit. But I had a test game the other day where I actually got to block for 5 with this shield, and it felt like I was just unstoppable. I have looked at some of the effects that pull counters off of shields to see if I can really brutalize that, but I'm still focused on working out the kinks of making my Seismic Surges. Regardless, this thing is badass. This is going for about $70 right now. So hopefully It comes down so more people can get it, but also just a rock star. Because I'm running the shield, I'm also running a one-handed weapon. I'm running Titan's Fist. I don't feel like there are any weapons that take a ton of advantage of having seismic surges, so this seemed like the next best one-handed option. Um, yeah, I don't swing the hammer a ton in this list because I'm oftentimes using all my resources, or I might have one or two left over. But this is a good failsafe. It can be pummeled, it can be torn asunder, so there are options. Outside of the equipment suite, the deck, again, this is my first venture into Guardian, so there may be some things that off the cuff don't make sense, but I've got reasons for all of them. So you'll notice a lot of my crush attacks. Cartilage Crush, it's only 3. Crush Confidence, that costs 3. Hostile Encroachment, that costs 3. This deck is packed full of low-cost attacks just to take advantage of having a free attack every turn, essentially. So make 3 Seismic Surges the turn before. My turn comes around. I can pitch all the cards in my hand into whatever I want and still play a Cartilage Crush from Arsenal for free with Dominate. Big fan of that. Crash and Bash. This is one of the few defensive cards. So I assumed I'd be a little more defensive as a Guardian than this deck turned out, but this is maybe a little bit more aggressive. Regardless, this card is pretty sweet. It comes in a rainbow, but I like the red. And being able to just squeeze out an extra Seismic Surge on your opponent's turn to sometimes push you from 2 to 3, super nice. I also saw that Pleiades has some cards that reference non-block cards. So having block cards and utilizing them, I think, is going to become increasingly important. It also gets around overpower. So Crash and Bash, big fan of that common. We got Crush Confidence, a classic. Again, the 3-cost ones can be kind of interchanged with other cheaper Crush cards depending on what your opponent's doing. But I tried to pick some of the best generic ones. So, being humbled essentially, making something cost 1 more. They seem like they're decent into most matchups. This is a card.
Can't forget Boulder Drop.
What do you say?
Can't forget Boulder Drop.
Yeah, Boulder Drop. For sure,
Yeah.
which I'm only running blue Boulder Drops right now because the yellow ones just didn't quite make the cut. But yeah, this is a sweet card as well. But I'll get back into that one.
Great blue.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
The blues, I was kind of torn between going more attack heavy into the blues, but what I found is there's so many value non-attack blues that a lot of my blues aren't attacks. But that's okay. I'll get into that in a second. This Geyser, which is new from this set, this to me feels like a Malefic incantation. It's more expensive. It's not quite as cool as Malefic's, but for all intents and purposes, this card kicks just as much ass. Getting a Seismic Surge every single turn, while also being in the mindset of paying into the tectonic plating, it's really easy to cast stuff for very, very cheap. Even if you can't get on 3 or 4, being able to reduce everything by 2 is sweet. I've actually been considering yellows in this list if I increase my cost up to more of the 4 and 5 cost attacks, but so far this thing is really rocking. Hostile Encroachment, another new card. This one is so far very good. If you can't give it Dominate, it becomes a lot less good, but it's still a 3 for 8. When the hero draws a card, you also make a Seismic Surge, so you get a point of value there. I mean, this is a good card. I can't deny it, but it's something that I kind of have trepidation about using because you never know what you're giving your opponent. So, a little risky, but
This to me is this is very reminiscent of like Swing Big and Brute, where it's a little bit above rate, with a potentially big downside, but it's one of those like you can kind of cheat around really making sure that downside never really comes up.
sure. And while the downside is more hardcore than Swing Big, the risk is also much higher. I mean, giving somebody a full card over a Quicken token, you're definitely risking giving them some good stuff. But if they don't, block it out, or this is something that I think feels a lot better when it's mid to late game and they've already used some of their equipment blocks. So they're really going to have to dedicate the hand to this to keep from discarding a card, which at that point, okay, well, I traded value for cards, but the Seismic Surge also just keeps you going because If you have out a geyser and you pitch into your side or your tech plating, and then you play this card, you're at 3. Your attack next turn is going to have dominate no matter what. So,
Oh yeah, it's a
kick-ass
great
card.
pummel target too.
That's very true. Any of the pumps, and I did try to find some ways to increase the pumping in this a little bit to make these attacks a little taller. I haven't looked at going wider with things like Zealous Belting or E-Strikes yet. So this is really more focused on one attack a turn and making them taller attacks. Again, something like Mangle, 4 for 8, still pretty cheap, but just a good all-around value. Any player is going to have something you want to put a -1 counter on for the most part. And should I acquire Headbutts, another fine fit next to a Headbutt, so that's good. Overswing is a new interesting one. Heave 2, the next Guardian attack action you play this turn gets +3, go again. Cost 2 to play out of your arsenal. What I love about this is, even when I don't play it out of my arsenal, right? A lot of times a turn looks like pitch a blue into a tech plating, and then heave an overswing, making my 3 seismic surges, and then on my next turn, I'll block with the crown to tuck this away and to draw into something else. And get that 5th card in hand while having 3 seismic surges out, and it just is... It's sweet. And if you do end up playing it, it kind of recovers its cost a little bit. 2 for 3 is not great, but having the utility of being a pump spell and generating seismic surges is good enough to give it a shot, I think. So far, I'm pretty happy with how that's performed. Pummels, classic, love it. One of the greatest on hits of all time.
Able.
I wish it would discard on a hammer hit or a club hit, but what can you do? Another new card, and the new Valda spec. This card is also really, really good. I've cast it for free many times, played it for free rather. And having the opponent discard their hand, then draw that many cards. I love pummeling this because they discard 4, they draw 4. I make 4 seismic surges, and they discard 1 off the pummel. This is just a sweet card. If you see this coming at you and you can cover it up, you should at least make sure it doesn't crush you because it creates so much value for the Valda player. Huge fan. I love this. It is a 6 cost. This is one of the fewer, more expensive cards that I have in here. I got Spinal Crush at 5. That's phenomenal. Taking away Go Again cripples so many decks. Yeah, love it. 5. Boulder Drops 3. I've got Terra Sunder. That's not what I'm looking for. Let me see. Disable 5, but I don't really have any Arsenal Disruption. I don't want to put CNCs in this yet, so that's fine. Oh, I had a 6 in here. I had these Battered to a Pulps in here, but I pulled them out just because I found that, first of all, these cards are hard to get a hold of right now, and second of all, I was playing a bunch of matchups where everything had block value on it. So these were basically just a vanilla 6 for 10. The damage prevention aspect of it is interesting. I think that has great implications into anything that has ward. Having a physical attack that can't be prevented that'll just burn through ward tokens is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and this is great anti-prism tech right there.
Oh, for sure. Mega Popper, all those things. Seismic Eruption. I think this is just a better Seismic Stir. I love doing this on my opponent's turn. It also works great in tandem with a card like, where is that thing? Solid Ground. So you play that for 0, make 3, and then you can block with this for free out of your hand. It also just, sometimes what I'll do also is I'll save it until it's my turn. I'll have 3 pop. I'll play this for 0, and I'm already turned on for my next turn. I love this card, and yeah, super, super good. It's so good it makes me consider Seismic Stir, but I'm not totally sold yet. Boulder Drop, great disruptive card. Put a card from their hand on top of their deck. That's just a feel bad. They only have to cover a little bit. It's a good pummel target, but again, just a good blue block 3 that has crush on it. Just looking for all the crush I can get. Same thing with Disable. Good crush card with Arsenal Disruption. Imposing Visage. This is a classic. Came out in Everfest. This card really only has one target. There's a few auras in here, but this is really just to grab the next card on the list, this Leyline of the Old Ones. This is a pricey card right now. This is going for just under $100. I feel like this is maybe the strongest aura I've ever seen. Um,
You feel like that $100 is undervalued or overvalued right now?
well, $100 to me is a lot to spend on a card. So I would say it's at best it's at value. I don't think any card needs to cost that much. Um, it's a rainbow foil, you know what I mean? But the effect kind of speaks for itself. It is a Guardian instant aura, which is crazy. That you can flash this in on your opponent's turn. You make a seismic surge when it enters and whenever you deal damage. Then it says at the beginning of your end phase, if you control no seismic surges, destroy this. This with the tech plating, they have to target it. There's no way for them to get rid of this unless they can either force you to block out completely and time walk you essentially, or they target it. Because if I have my tech plate, I'm going to pay into it every turn if I have to just to keep this thing around. This generates so much value. It makes sense why they made it a legendary. I think they could have made it a legendary and made it a majestic printing. I would have liked that a little more. It would have helped the price not be ungodly because again, I don't agree with the idea that you can make a card expensive enough that not everybody's going to run it and that that's good balancing. They printed it, they want us to play with it, so I think it could have been a little more affordable. But it's a great effect. It's definitely a chase card. It's a power card. I know they have a Marvel printing of this card. Um, I felt like it was unique and powerful enough that I had to grab one for this deck. It definitely will drive the price of the list up, but you know, new toys to play with. What are you gonna do? Speaking of new toys, promising terrain. This kind of ties all the pieces of the puzzle together. So, a zero cost aura that you can drop for free on your turn. Amazing. It basically has a Mordred Tide effect for seismic surges. Mordred Tide is a Runeblade card that says if you would make a rune chant, you make that many +1. This says the exact same thing for the exact same cost, but it has an extra effect. It says at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this. Then if you control 3 or more seismic surge tokens, draw a card and gain 1 life. This pops so often in this list that this, with tech plating, with hostile encroachment, with put them in their place, if you're playing against any hero that draws, like a KO hates to see this deck coming. Dash IO, if she touches those processors, she's gonna have a bad time. This card is just so good, but this is only a rare printing. I wouldn't have been surprised for this to be a majestic. It just gives you so much extra gas, and in a deck that's not going super wide, it just makes it so I can reliably get the cards to make my seismic surges. Seismic Shelter. This is a card that I've added recently. The other defensive option I have, I was doing some calculations because the Valda list very regularly will have 4 to 8 seismic surges a turn for 3 or 4 turns in a row. You might have a turn or two where you only make 2, and then you go right back up to just pumping them out. This protects you against Dominate and Overpower and all these other effects so much because you have this out and you have 6 seismic surges. You can pitch an extra attack in your hand to block 7 damage with a single card. This will save your ass, especially in tandem with equipment blocks. I mean, if I could block with 1 card from hand and the last of my Battle Worn 2 to stop a Swing Big, I'm happy to make that trade, you know? So I'm going to be testing with this one and seeing if it's worth it. It'll obviously have to come out for like Wizard matchups and stuff, but my sideboard's kind of teched against that, so I'll talk about that in a second. Solid Ground I touched on. This is my D-React in the list. It's a great card. It's super good. Cool art, too. Looks like some Terracotta Warriors or something going on there. Surface
Yeah.
Shaking. This was an expansion slot card, right? In High Seas.
Yeah, yeah.
I like a lot about this card, except that it costs 3, but this deck's got a ton of blues, so we make it happen anyways. This is also kind of a one-stop shop. Pitch a blue, make 3 seismics, and you are turned on for the next turn. This secondary effect is also not bad. I'm still early enough in the testing phases of this game that I almost never actually filter the cards out, but I suspect once I know more what I'm doing, being able to filter a hand is obviously good. This feels like maybe it would be better if you were running her other chess piece, Earthlore Bounty.
Yeah.
That's one where you make seismic surges when you draw cards.
Yeah, from the effect of an action card. So yep,
Well,
this would
this is an
absolutely
action
turn that
card.
on as well.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So that would make you 4 seismic surges at the beginning of your next turn. So this is great in that list. It's a good blue. It's a block 3, and it makes seismic surges, so it's in this list. Um, yeah, not 100% hot on this card, but it functions fine enough for the purposes of making sure all this stuff comes out for as cheap as possible and most of the time free. Um, Tear Ass. This is one of the cards that I still need to bite the bullet and pick up. Um, Tails card, I believe.
This is why you play Guardian.
For sure. This is so insane. 3 for a 3 block blue. Your next Guardian attack this turn gets +1, dominate, and if this hits, they discard 2 cards. Go again. So you'll have turns in this game where you've made 6 seismic surges the turn before, so you're going to draw up and you're going to be able to pitch a blue into a Tear Asunder. You're going to put them in their place for 11 dominate, and then you're going to pummel that, and they're going to draw 4 and then discard 3, unless they block as many cards as they can, which will be 1. So they'll draw 3 and then they'll throw them all away. Um, it's so freaking cool, dude. I can't imagine it's gonna feel super good for the opponent. But
No.
I'm here to win. You know what I mean? I'm here to tear their ass. Look, dude,
Yeah, who
he's
cares?
spreading the cheeks in the picture. Look at that, dude. That's an ass tear right there. Cool ass
It
card.
is, dude.
Big fan. This is the kind of effect that again makes me envious of Guardian and helped push me into this class. Tectonic Instability. This is a fine card. There are times where neither player has an arsenal card, so it's really just a blue block 3 at that point. But there are a lot of times where I'll just use it to filter, again, my overswing. I'll heave it, or I'll put a Thunderquake in there, and then I'll use this to turn that into a card draw and make an extra Seismic Surge. It just all works. It all flows pretty good together. Again, another 0 cost non-attack action. Big fan of that. Tech Rift. This is more utility than function. It's less cost effective than Seismic Stir, but it offers you the utility of pitching 1 into it. If you only need 1 more to turn on, or you only have 1 floating, it allows you to still pitch it as a blue to heave 3 or Thunderquake. So good value, good utility. And you can also, if you have a bunch of Seismic Surges and a bunch of blues and a good attack in your arsenal, pitch as many as you want into this. Pitch 6 into it. Pitch 9 into it. Do whatever you want, dude. This deck makes Seismic Surges, and that's what I want it to do. Then we got Thunderquake. Heave 3. I think this is just a great blue that also can make 3 Seismic Surges. This is the only attack that doesn't have Crush. But most of the time, I'm not playing it anyways. I'm heaving it, or I'm pitching it, or I'm tucking it. So, yeah, this is kind of ground zero for my Valda list. She's a blast online. I need to get some more concrete experience with her. I'll run you through the sideboard real quick. Batter to a pulp. Again, if you know the opponent has important equipment with no defensive value, then this is great. If you know you're playing against Prism, this is great. Outside of that, it's kind of pricey for what you're getting, but it has its place. Renounced Grandeur. This is in here more for... my initial thought was Runeblade. But this will affect anybody making any aura tokens. So it will turn off might tokens, it will turn off vigor tokens, it will turn off agility tokens, it will turn off all aura tokens, and it pumps itself to a 3 for 8. So this is another great one. This may actually go in full time, just because it's a 3 for 8 for, well, maybe Mangles. Maybe Mangles if I just want to get a little bit better rate, or a cheaper cost that I can more reliably play for free. But anyways, Arcane Compliance. This is here for Wizards. That is it. Wizards. Don't want to see them. Same thing with this AB3 package. I replaced my offhand shield with that. Changed my boots out. Changed my head out. And I got AB3 plus the ability to snuff any pumped wizardry. Roiling Fisher. Again, this is more for targeted destruction. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really utilize this yet, but there's a little bit of thought behind it. There's a part of me, too, though, that feels like this sideboard, maybe minus the arcane stuff, could just be a toolbox of the different crush effects. There's so many crush effects that you can really kind of tailor it to be a little more hurtful or a little less hurtful depending on your opponent. Um, but I've tried to put the ones in here that I thought were a little more overall disruptive or difficult to maneuver around. So, as a Guardian player, Matthew, what do you think? I know you've played a game or two with it, maybe online against some AI. Um, what are your thoughts?
I really like your list. I think this is a, it's very interesting to see your play style kind of be adopted into a new class. Um, and it's very funny. Before I even move on, I like this list. I think this is a great ground zero. I think this is a great jumping off point. Um, I I predict from this list it just maybe is going to need a few tweaks and tunings, and it's really just going to be meta dependency. It's just going to be what's everybody in the shop jamming for the next month or so.
Sure.
Um, but it looks awesome. It looks super fun. I'm a little jealous of your onboard evasion, to be honest, because Victor has really almost no evasion except for one overpowered attack and the terrasses.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought of something funny, and maybe you'll think this is funny too. And this will be a good segue into our next chat here. But so with my Victor list being a functionally an aggro guardian list, right? That is very min-maxed to have as few whiffs as possible. Um, it reminds me very much of again the way that we build KO. Um, but to go along with that, the way that this vault appears, where you have, the main meat and potatoes of your deck is in the reds and yellows, and then the blues are all just good value blues that
Utility
either
blues.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, very much like another big green man that is recently going to he got an armory deck spoiled for him and a very big love of mine. Um, Also quite a good counter to if we're going to have a bunch of guardians running around here soon. Uh, yeah, dude, the man Reinar is back.
Yeah, and we got the Reinar Stan himself here to talk about him. I know you've loved Reinar for a very, very long time. Um, I've seen many iterations of Reinar, and I'm excited to check out this new iteration you've got. I know you mentioned that you think this will be pretty good into Guardians, so good timing, especially with Pack Mastery Guardian and then another full set coming out that has Guardians in it. So why don't you tell us what you're going to do to us Guardians, man?
It's always nice to tech into yourself as well, too, right?
For sure.
Um, so I put this list together. Yes, I've been a very big Rhinar fan for a long time. He was the second deck that I ever put together back when I was still just playing Blitz and I'd first started. I had a Maikatsu deck, and then I put this together. And when I actually moved from Colorado back here, he was one of the two decks that I had. I had a Savage, or I had yeah, I had a Savage Beatdown Ravenous Meataxe Rhinar build that was like with Berserks and all kinds of crazy shit. So. Um, with the spoiling of the armory deck, and if you scroll on down to the maybe board, there's just the one card in the maybe. So this is so far the only card that we've had spoiled from this armory deck Rhinar. I don't know if James White and Brian Gottlieb heard me say quietly in my bedroom that I would sell my soul for another blue six power card, but here it is. Um, it is a Rhinar specialization, of course. It's a 3 for 6 that does not have a block value, which is very interesting to me. I don't know if there's going to be some implication of maybe in his deck he might also make some toughness tokens that are going to be coming out of the new Super Slam set. But it says when it's discarded to beat chest, create a might token. Beat chest is just a mechanic that, as an additional cost, you can discard a card and a 6 power card from your hand. So that will, it's just a nice utility blue. Um, Rhinar, the reason why I say that he is so good into Guardian metas and really just any mid-range defensive meta as it is his hero ability. And just some of the other Intimidate cards that he runs. Cards that just say Intimidate printed on them, or cards that discard 6 power cards to trigger his hero ability. So, yep, things like Barraging Beatdown that just, like I said, naturally have Intimidate, or Bonebreaker Bella with Beat Chest, Rawhide Rumble with Beat Chest. Um, so some of the some of the cards that I've recently started adding to this list have been um, more central to playing around the club. So Romping Club is the weapon that's tied to Rhinar, and I know I'm all over the place with this list, but I believe that this is one of the better rates on a weapon that we have. I mean, 2 for 4 that can be 2 for 5 is really, really good. And with paired with some of these 0 and 1 cost non-attacks, you kind of get to have these really good mid-range plays that will kind of overlap into more mid-range value that will eventually overlap into you being able to keep a hand that's going to just make them set their entire hand down or almost their entire hand down, and you could just slam a bunch of damage into their face. Um, Anybody who's trying to be hyper defensive, they want to block with 2 to 3 to potentially 4 cards out of their hand. That intimidate mechanic being random just screws up the plans of anybody trying to actually have a plan with their cards. Where Rhinar kind of suffers is into decks that don't necessarily care about blocking, and there are some contingency plans for that, such as like if you want to pull up Splatter Skull, um, and really just the overall bite token generation of the deck. Um, I'm just trying to create as many tall evasive attacks as I can, kind of like what Volda's trying to do, right? Tall evasive attacks, and that's it. Just kind of ground him down. Reinhardt plays really well. He flows back and forth between defensive and aggressive very easily in his lists. Um, so I wanted to put something together that looked a little closer to what I thought this armory deck was going to look like. Clearly, this is all teched out and it's running, Majestics left, right, and center. Um, but I do think that they're going to push maybe some more club specific things. Bam Bam was a card that came out recently that kind of is my running theory on this. So 3 for 6, 3 block on a yellow. When this hits a hero, destroy an item they control, and then it has an instant speed ability of discard. Your club attacks this turn gain when this hits a hero, destroy an item they control. This is great. This is great as in my testing with this deck, I've done things like I have kept this card in my hand and just pitched to a club with against a dash player with like a boom grenade, and they go to block 4 of it, and you discard this card out. You pump your club to 5. You just tip it over by 1, and usually you could pull that last card out of their hand if they had some sort of reaction, and just slide it on through. I have Mighty Windups in here for that same thing, just a way to clear a card out of your hand. But that's all this deck does. All this deck wants to do is either discard 6 power cards, play some Intimidate cards. It just wants to make any deck that cares about trying to squeeze as much value out of their block cards as they can. It just makes everything awkward, right? It's the the perfect attack is when you can do something that clears 2 cards out of their hand, and one of the cards that you intimidated is a D-react, and the other card you intimidated was going to be their extra non-attack that they were going to play to get some extra value, and now they can't block with those. They have the blue that they were going to use to pay with everything in their hand, and the attack that they were going to lead off with, and now their whole plan's kind of screwed up. They either have to take damage or they have to sacrifice a better play and try to preserve some life. And Ragnar is a real SOB when the game starts closing out. More so than really any other hero, just being able to, um, you know, just clear your hand out towards the end. If you can't kill Rhinar on a turn that he's really going to be able to slam through some damage and really force his way through your defenses, I mean, it's time's up.
Well, I feel like any skilled player who plays against another skilled player will reach a game state where you're going to have to block. And nobody can keep you
Yeah.
off of blocking as well as Rhinar can.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially to like with the Jarl is going to be coming back more with popularity, and maybe he got some boost from PMG, and Bravo might make a return. Volda, I'm sure the lists for Volda are going to try to be very defensive as well, where I don't think everyone's as aggressively minded as we are, so they'll probably just shoot for that bare minimum 3, and everything else is just a block until they can throw through like a 3 for 7, or everything else is a block until they can throw through a 6 for 10 off of 1 blue, and it'll just be kind of this try to be defensive, mid-range minded game plan, and I think a deck like this is really gonna screw up a lot of what people have planned.
Yeah, for sure. It'll eat the lunch of anybody who's running a bunch of D reacts. That's for sure. And you may have noticed in my Balda list too, like there are some defensive cards. That deck, for the most part, like every deck I have, can block with a card here or there. I want to play all my cards out. I want to lay down all 4 of my cards. So I'm going to use my fridge a lot. and I'm going to occasionally throw a card away. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this performs. Something like Bam Bam too. Super interesting that it gives your club an on hit. I mentioned that I wish Pummel would affect the weapon types. That's sick. Destroy an item they control. That's really good in the high seas meta against all the gold and the cogs and the harpoons and whatnot. Actually, can the harpoons even be targeted? Those are attacks, aren't they? They're not items.
Correct.
Oh, okay. One thing I do want to say too, though, give me some freaking flail support, dude. You get Bam Bam, dude. Listen, my ball breaker, it needs help. Okay, my flail I use in Vincent.
Dude, Ball Breaker's so good on its own.
No, it's not, dude. Because it doesn't have any effects that give it cool stuff like this. Same thing, dude.
Dude, it's the
Hexagore.
OG4, dude. Oh, yeah, Hexagore getting some support would be really cool.
That's what
But
I'm
it's the
saying, dude.
OG4, man. It's daggers, swords, clubs, hammers, man. That's how we do it.
Great. We got guns. We got flails. We got
We got gun
we
support.
got orbs, dude.
We got intra-class gun support within Mechanologist.
I know, but I want
They say
flail
stuff about
support.
guns.
I want flail support.
I I know you do, buddy.
Give me a.
I know you do. And maybe someday. There's only so many cards they could make, you know what I mean?
Not true. They can make as many as they want.
That's actually going to be the next legendary from the new Monarch set. Is going to be a Vincent specialization that says if you attack with a flail, pop your collar and give everybody a hey, because you're a cool guy.
Yeah, nice.
That'll be a shadow non-attack action. You can pay some life if you want.
I'll take that over the carrion husk bullshit. I just hate dying to my own blood debt.
Yeah, I get it, man. Play Levi. And then
Nah.
die to your blood debt when you take like 9.
Yeah, I'm good on that, big dog. Look at this brute list, though. I'm excited. We're gonna have to put something out for SummerSlam with John Cena, Super Slam. I'll have to get some content out about that. Talk about they're spoiling some stuff now. I don't know when the continuation of spoiler season is, but we'll definitely have a conversation about that once we see some more of those cards. Being that we're both now Brute and Guardian players.
Very much so. I am very much in love with both of the new brutes. I will probably build Lyeth for the lulz to have just keeping it in the Goldmane family. Um, I'm not super duper pumped on him, but I'm also not turned off of him either. So, absolutely, when we get really deep into spoiler season, oh, absolutely, we'll probably have a full video up for Super Slam. We'll probably have these deck lists in the description of the video as well. So if it's something that you guys want to try out, whether it be Talishar or in paper with your friends, yeah, take these, run wild, report back to us, let us know how they are, let us know if they're terrible. Be gentle about it though, because my feelings will get hurt, and have fun with them. So
I like the pain. I want the pain.
I think that's pretty much it for me, buddy. I don't think I have much else to ramble on about.
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Everybody, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Again, feel free to make suggestions what you guys want to see. We're always listening. We're always checking. So stay tuned. We'll be back with some more stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for the support, guys.
All right, everybody. We will see you.